So it is October 2020 and GoPro just released their newest model, the Hero 9. I want to take a look at this model of GoPro and compare it to the older ones, specifically my Hero 5, to see whether it's something that's going to be worth your time and your money to upgrade to. Now quickly, before we dive into the video, I'm going to invite you very pleasantly to go down below, hit the like button. It actually really helps me out. It doesn't cost you anything. You don't even need to subscribe. I'm not even asking you to subscribe. Like button, that's all. Alright, now on to the Hero 9. I'm going to be taking a look at this GoPro from hopefully a different perspective than anything you might have seen so far. I'm not interested so much in the action sports concepts, or aspects, rather. If you are a videographer, a YouTuber, a filmmaker, anything like that, I want to try to look at it in aspects that'll apply more to you and to me. GoPros, to me, they've always meant something that nothing else in the filmmaking industry or product lines have ever been able to achieve, which is making crazy shots very, very doable. With this GoPro, I feel perfectly confident taking it out into the ocean, strapping it on a boogie board, strapping it on a surfboard, sticking it out the window, rolling over it with my car. This is what GoPros are useful for me and for a lot of other videographers. It's also just a nice little camera to have to get like an extra shot of something here and there, which is where the time-lapses come in, which I'll touch on just a tiny bit. But mainly I want to focus on the areas where GoPros really shine for videographers. Now, GoPro hasn't really released a model that achieves that new excitement that the first couple GoPros did, where like, wow, you can get some crazy footage with these, since they released the GoPro Max, which is their 360-degree camera. You know, everything up from probably the Hero 2 or even the Hero 1, just the first GoPro, has been the same concept, the same action cam concept with a few improvements here and there. And the Hero 9 unfortunately follows that same trend of not being super different or radical. But there is one thing about it that I'm gonna hit right away because it is super important, and that is the built-in LCD display, or not LCD? I don't know if it's LCD, but it's a viewfinder, right? It's right on the front of the camera. It's in place of this thing right here, and that is the reason why I am very inclined to get the GoPro Hero 9. I don't even have one here with me today because I'm broke and I don't want to buy it. Any vlogger, any cinematographer, videographer, filmmaker, any of those people know that having a front-facing or lens person-facing screen is pretty much the most important thing in any camera, especially for me. That's why I have the EOS T7i as my DSLR, because that flip screen, I mean, the 1DX doesn't even have a flip screen, I don't think. So I'd so much rather have this, and that's kind of the same deal with the GoPro. That's why this front-facing screen on the new GoPro is so important to me. I guess just to sum up this whole train of thought, if this front-facing screen excites you as much as it excites me, and you have it in your budget, that might be your answer right there to why you should upgrade your GoPro. If you want to look at other specs for the reasoning, I'm about to dive into that right now. Now, I'm going to be going over these videography and photography specs in a kind of minimalistic way because, like I said, my main purpose for the GoPro is to get those crazy shots. It's way more important what you can capture in the screen than how you capture it in the frame, or how high definition, of course, like that doesn't even matter at all. I want to take a brief segue to talk about resolution real quick. I'm going to make an entire video all about this, but real quick, I want to point out that the human eye can't even perceive 4K past, I believe, underneath it's like 27-inch displays. We can't even perceive 4K, which is why upgrading to, say, a 4K camera when you have a perfectly good 1080p camera isn't always the best move. Unless you're making professional video for a client or anything like that, nobody's going to be able to tell the difference between 1080p or 4K when they're watching on their smartphone. Back to specifically the GoPro. In my opinion, resolution comes last, so I'm gonna tackle that first. The most exciting thing about the Hero 9 as far as resolution improvements goes is the improvements from their linear mode or to their linear mode. If you're like me and you have the Hero 5 and you like to shoot in linear mode so that you don't get all that warp, that classic GoPro look, you know that the Hero 5 has a lot of limitations in linear mode. You can't shoot higher than 1080p. You also can't shoot higher than 60 frames per second, which is pretty average slow motion speed frame rates. But with the Hero 9, you can go all the way up to 240 FPS at 1080p resolution, which is almost headache-inducingly slow, so that's not a concern at all. Now, if you're somebody who likes shooting in 4K, which that might be a video for another day, I don't know why you do like shooting in 4K, but if you enjoy shooting in 4K, well, the Hero 9 has better 4K. It actually goes up to 5K, but it's 4K resolutions with linear mode, goes all the way up to 60 frames per second. You cannot shoot 4K linear mode on the Hero 5. You just can't. Another big factor to the Hero 9 is that it has Hypersmooth 3.0, which is, I suppose, better than 2.0 or 1.0. I don't really know, I haven't tested it. Maybe they just changed the numbers. Either way, if you have a GoPro below 7, you don't have Hypersmooth, which is a problem, or a bummer at least. I don't even have it. But it basically acts as a digital gimbal, giving you some super buttery smooth footage, which could be important or could be not important. It depends on how you use your GoPro. Now I want to touch on one other feature of the Hero 9, which I thought seemed really interesting, and I definitely have a lot of questions for that I could fiddle with it if I had my hands on it, but I don't. The Hero 9 has this new mode called Hindsight, which seems really cool because basically what it means is if you hit the record button, you can select to record up to 30 seconds before you hit the record button. How this works, I'm not entirely sure. You can ask the people over at GoPro, but it seems to me like it must be recording constantly and then the software auto deletes the video at a certain point. But I feel like that would kill your battery. That's what I would like to test it for. Either way, it seems super interesting, especially if you had it like hooked up on your helmet or something, maybe more of an action sports implementation, because I know if I ever used it, I would just end up recording 30 seconds of my pocket, which wouldn't do me or you any good. Time lapses. If you watched my previous GoPro video, you know that time lapses to me, super important. A lot of vloggers use time lapses. It shows, well, an elapse of time, but it's just a good bridge between things. So when you're out shooting time lapses, I highly recommend you have a GoPro, your phone, and your DSLR set up, taking those time lapses. Now, the new GoPro has this whole hyperlapse setting, which is supposed to be, well, it's supposed to be like a smoother time lapse if you're moving. It's in the older, I think from the 7 on has this hyperlapse mode. It seems like daytime time lapses on the Hero 9 aren't that much improved from the Hero 5 or even the Hero 4. Like, I don't think there's that much of a difference because you're still talking about video type time lapses where you're taking multiple pictures over a long period of time with space in between. The thing is, if you're trying to get a cooler looking time lapse, you generally want to go for a DSLR setup because then you can change your shutter speeds to get that nice blur. Either way, it seems like daytime time lapse is not a big difference between the old GoPros and the new one. If you've got your hands on it and you say no, otherwise you're wrong, let me know below. But the new GoPro does have a nighttime time-lapse thing, which could be cool if you ever shot at night. I never do. Maybe you do. Something to consider, I suppose. So to answer my thesis question, which would have been, is this the year to upgrade to your GoPro or upgrade your GoPro to the Hero 9? Maybe. I would say, like any sort of video thing with technology, it's gonna be all up to your budget. For me, it's not worth the, actually right now it's pretty cheap, $350 to upgrade and get another GoPro. Maybe it is for you. But as for now, unless they send me a GoPro Hero 9, I'm just gonna keep taking my spare time lapses on the Hero 8, or not 8, 5. I'm just gonna keep using this dude, keep dropping it off cliffs and like into water and almost losing it until I do, and then I suppose I'll upgrade it. That's the circle of camera gear life. I hope this video was helpful for you in deciding whether this was a good time to upgrade your GoPro to the Hero 9. That front-facing screen really is nice, and that's what would probably push me over the edge if I were you. But if you're like me and you think, it's probably not worth it, well, good for you. Keep on holding out, save that money. But if you want to buy one, you can spend it through the link that I have down in the description. I get a cut of it, and it's really just taking money out of big corporations' hands and giving them to me. You're not even spending any extra money. It's just GoPro's a publicly traded company, so you're taking that money that you were gonna give to them, giving it to me. I'd appreciate it. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like below and subscribe to my channel if you like my beautiful face and you want to see it again sometime. If you do, I will see you then, and I'll talk to you later.